Good evening, dear friends. Welcome to this Tuesday evening Dharma session. It's very lovely to see you all out there on Zoom. Big warm welcome to Wat Buddhanasorn. Thank you for joining us, and respects to any venerables who may be present who I can't see. And evening everybody here, our friends, little group here in the room also. We're having a very lovely retreat time. It's become very peaceful and quite uneventful. One can reflect on, is this my mind I'm talking about, or is it the external experience of community? And this is our contemplation, isn't it? In fact, this is our very contemplation for this evening. We're going to be looking at Cittanupassana, states of mind. And I'd like to offer a guided meditation for 40 minutes or so, really using the Buddha's teaching in the Satipatthana Sutta on Cittanupassana, seeing mind with mind, as the springboard for this guided meditation. So we'll just see how that goes. But what I'd like to invite you all to do, without any further ado, is to relax and to allow yourselves to close the eyes, if that's helpful, and come into formal meditation. As we sit together, we can bring our attention more inwardly at this time and feel out the body sitting, whatever posture. Let it be upright, let it be energized, let it be as much as possible unsupported, apart from the sitting bones and muscles. Feeling the feet touching the floor or the mat, feeling the butt on the cushion or the mat or the chair. Coming into this space of feeling, body feeling. This is a wonderful way to begin. Just to land, to sort of root ourselves and find our stable ground sitting. This is where we are. The experience of place, isn't it? So to land, to settle, we can start to relax. So really letting the attention be here for the body. Feeling it out, the state of things, temperature, feelings that present themselves. See if we can kind of peruse the whole body, sweep the attention through the body, noticing how it is, how it feels. And as we pay attention to the body, of course, there's this opportunity for us to hone and focus our mindfulness here. And we can notice how body really relaxes and finds its comfortable position, finds its peace. You may not be comfortable. There may be pain here and there in the body. This is a chance to feel out what's really happening. What's it really like? Not to turn away from any painful feelings, but to Observe them. Turn towards them. Open and investigate. With great kindness and with great compassion. As if we're kind of massaging any sore, any painful areas with a peaceful and a kind attention. And if there's no particularly intense feeling, strong feeling in the body, let's investigate more deeply. Moving the attention around and seeing if we can notice every part of the body. Body breathing. See if we can notice the breath as it permeates this body. The rhythm of the breathing. Let that be part of our field of awareness. And so we're gathering our attention here, beginning to focus. It's a broad field, but it's a particular one. Let's see if we can, for some time now, stay within this area. Be here, be present for this body breathing, feeling, here. As we settle into the practice, we can remember that the Buddha invited us to also consider another field of attention, mind, citta, heart, state of mind. And quite naturally, as we come into the meditation and apply ourselves, we can attend to this aspect too. We can notice how easeful it is to focus, or whether the mind is actually quite scattered, distracted, like a bird flapping its wings, trying to take off, get away. It can be very difficult sometimes, can't it, to bring attention to bear here. So we can see, is this mind right now focused, or is it distracted? Is it peaceful, or is it agitated? Checking in on how is it? How is it? Is there anything that's coloring the mind at this time? Is there any wanting, desiring? Is there a flavor of aversion? Don't want to be here. Something in the day that's left a residue of irritability. Can we feel, investigate, look and see if there's any resistance or aversion here? Or is the mind free from aversion right now? Is the mind free from the pull of desire right now? Feeling out the qualities of mind. It's like the sense of the one who's meditating. And we can start to see, experience the changeability of this one too. It's like the moods that come and go. Is there any confusion here? Dullness? Or is there an open, expansive quality? Just see. The feelings in the body come and go so rapidly. The state of mind can be more kind of slow moving, more sluggish, more a little bit slower to change. But can we see how it's changing? The state of mind is impermanent too. Just like as soon as we notice any kind of aversion, that noticing makes a difference and something else happens. Can we see this process? Of insight as we investigate mind with mind. Can we recognize that the experience of mood, happy, sad, angry, cheerful, is also not personal, not something I can abide with, not something I can make mine. Objective, this observation. We can see dhammas here, arising due to causes, lingering for a while and then moving on. If you have some predominant state of mind, such as depression or anxiety, can we investigate that? See how it is, how it really is right now. How does it locate in the body? Flutter of anxiety or the heaviness of depression. Feeling it out. Whatever the state of mind that seems so lasting. Breathe into it. Open to this moment and see the change. Nothing is static. Nothing lasts. There is this flow that may be very repetitive, isn't it? But we can see it's a flow. We're breaking up the seemingly solid states as we investigate mind with mind. Bringing the attention to bear. What is the state of mind here? Often we have no way to really pigeonhole or label this experience, do we? But we can feel it. It's the question, how am I? How is it? And we can just let that question come in like dropping a pebble in a pond. Just watching the ripples. Let the question gently permeate our attention. How is it? And see. And even as we investigate mind with mind, we can do so in a field of body awareness. See how mind and body are like mirrors, and how much more we can appreciate mind, mental states, how it is when we're residing right here in this body. Where is the mood? How does it feel? How does it manifest? In the throat, in the chest, in the belly. And there may be a sense of no mood, state of mind, neutral, peaceful, expansive, maybe. You can just gently investigate the subtle sense of how that is. Sense of nothing happening, and how that feels. And breathe into that. And remember the body. However light, however subtle, can we feel it? And if there's pain in the body, difficult, intense, painful feelings here and there, Can we see, can we notice, how is that reflecting in the mind? What's the response? How are we handling it? How is it held? And where there's pain in the mind, resistance, hatred, aversion, despair, can we breathe into that peacefully, kindly, gently, patiently? There is no right or wrong state of mind. There's no good and bad here. It's just this. We don't have to try and change anything. There's nothing amiss. Can we open wide? Come closer and be present. With a sense of true acceptance. Of course, this is how it is. How could it be otherwise? And see how it flows. This too is a process of change. Everything changing from every angle, in every field, every resort for mindfulness, every experience, whether it feels like it's a subject or an object of attention, changing, flowing. The more we can open wide and get close to this mind, this body, we can see the change. And see the impersonal nature of absolutely every experience. Not me, not mine. Fleeting, flowing through, nothing to grasp here. See how even the most intense, painful feelings and moods are flowing through, constantly changing. Bring this perception in, bring this understanding in. And so we can enjoy the silence and the opportunity to let this question, how is it? How is it right now? To inform our mindfulness to inform our experience here. So, dear friends, we can begin to emerge from our focusing inwardly, and with a great kindness, we can bless whatever experiences we've had just now, whatever experiences are rolling through just now. Just as if we put out our hand and bless that experience with a smile, we can make peace. We always have this capacity, don't we, to bring up kindness and compassion. It's really amazing and wonderful. We can do this for ourselves, just as we can do this for another. And to finish the meditation with this conscious, intentional blessing. May I be well. May it be well. May the experience be well. May there be peace here. So please feel free to have a stretch if you need to, be comfortable, move around if you need to do so. And I'm going to offer some words on Dharma. And first, I'd like to pay homage to the Buddha Dhamma Sangha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammam sangham namasami. So our great teacher, the Lord Buddha, gave us this wonderful Satipatthana Sutta. And we've been going through all the various meditation instructions in this incredible sutta, meditation sutta, practice sutta. Cittanupassana, the first resort of mindfulness, we spoke on quite a lot because there's many different meditations in this section on body awareness. Cittanupassana, we covered last week the aspect of feelings, or the last couple of weeks we've been paying more attention to this resort of mindfulness. And now we're on to the third of the four resorts of mindfulness, the Cittanupassana. And it's interesting, again, Cittanupassana in the Satipatthana Sutta is quite a short section. It doesn't mean it's any less important, but there's just this ability to simplify, to sort of put it in one passage. Put what? Put the experience of mind, the ways in which we can experience mind into words in such a way that we can use this teaching for investigation. So I think what I'd like to do, just as I did with the second foundation of Cittanupassana, is just read the words of the Buddha in the Satipatthana Sutta, because it won't take too long. And I'd like you to hear the actual teaching on Cittanupassana. So I'd like to invite you all to really relax and come into a meditative posture, closing the eyes, and with full body awareness, feeling the body, feeling the breath. Just allow these words to come in. Contemplation of mind. How does one abide? Contemplating mind as mind. Here, one understands mind affected by greed, by lust, by desire, as mind affected by greed, and mind unaffected by greed, as mind unaffected by greed. One understands mind affected by hate, as mind affected by hate, and mind unaffected by hate, as mind unaffected by hate. One understands mind affected by delusion, as mind affected by delusion, and mind unaffected by delusion, as mind unaffected by delusion. One understands contracted mind as contracted mind, and distracted mind as distracted mind. One understands exalted mind as exalted mind, and unexalted mind as unexalted mind. One understands surpassed mind as surpassed mind, and unsurpassed mind as unsurpassed mind. One understands concentrated mind as concentrated mind, and unconcentrated mind as unconcentrated mind. One understands liberated mind as liberated mind, and unliberated mind as unliberated mind. In this way, one abides contemplating mind as mind internally, or one abides contemplating mind as mind externally, or one abides contemplating mind as mind both internally and externally. Or else, one abides contemplating in mind its arising factors. Or one abides contemplating in mind its vanishing, disappearing factors. Or one abides contemplating in mind both its arising and vanishing factors. Or else, mindfulness that there is mind is simply established to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and mindfulness. And one abides independent, not clinging to anything in the world. That is how one abides contemplating mind in mind. So there we have, dear friends, the words of the Buddha for us to consider. And, it's something very amazing to be basically instructed to very objectively, isn't it, see mind as something that is not mine. It's not me. This is something I'm observing. So to make that distinction, it's a very clear, powerful teaching there from the Buddha. In the time of the Buddha, there were so many different kinds of belief systems. And it's very interesting how in the suttas we can understand that, the Buddha kind of explained that many of these belief systems around God, in the infinite, the eternal, life after death or not life after death, many of these sort of cosmological questions and the answers to them and the belief in those answers came about through people believing their minds, believing their experiences of mind. And, oftentimes the belief systems would come about through some kind of profound spiritual opening or experience of mind, a state of surpassed mind, unsurpassed mind rather, a state of deep concentration, experience of jhana. From these kinds of experience, these beliefs would come. And the reason that they are problematic is because there's an identification of mind with mind. If the Buddha was really slicing through all of that, he's really encouraging us, not to believe any state of mind, not to believe any kind of ideation that comes up for us, any conceptualizing that comes up for us, anything that seems solid whatsoever. When we identify with this mind, then we're going to get caught up and we're going to produce systems and beliefs. And, it's difficult to speak about these things in some ways, but the Buddha was very clear and concise around religious and spiritual ideas in his day. And he really was encouraging everybody to be willing to let go of every kind of mental experience. And here in this teaching, there's an encouragement to see where there's any kind of defilement in the mind. So the first group, there's actually kind of 8 different instructions here, 8 different possibilities, or 16, because we have the state of mind, say the mind that has greed, and then we have the opposite, the mind that is without greed. So there are 16 kind of possibilities here. And I'm sure that we can be aware that we may find it not very helpful to be categorizing all the time. We don't need to do that. But this is a teaching for us to use as a kind of pointer, a guide, a springboard for our practice of investigating mind with mind. So for the purpose of this teaching, we have these 16 ways in which we can consider states of mind. And the first 8 of these possibilities, the Buddha's really asking us to look for any kind of defilement in the mind. And we can do this when we're meditating, and even more importantly, actually, we can do this in everyday life, can't we? I can notice if there's some kind of aversion here. Because of the meditation practice that we do, we can get very good at being aware of what's happening here. So where there's aversion, because I'm someone who meditates, been meditating for a long time, I can feel the effect, isn't it? We can feel in the body and we can notice the mind states because we're training ourselves to do that in our meditation practice. So the Buddha's saying, look out to see, is there any greed? Is there any state of mind around aversion? Is there confusion in the mind? Or are they absent? Can I notice their absence? And he invites us to see, is there any sense of contractedness in the mind or distractedness? Here he's pointing to the spiritual enemies, isn't he, of sloth and torpor on the one hand, contracted, dull mind. And on the other hand, can we see, is there any agitation, restlessness, distraction? And this is, something we can do on the mat, but we can also do this in everyday life. Am I zoning out? Am I turning away from my experience? Am I wanting to distract? Is there agitation? Is there restlessness? Or is the mind centered here? So all of these ways in which we can investigate the state of mind. And the first group, looking out for any kind of obscurations. And then in this set of 16 mind states to consider, the Buddha gives us another 8, which are more related to our meditation practice, aren't they? So to see if there's a mind that's expansive or not expansive. Is it opening? Are we opening to this experience? Is peace developing here? Is there an ability to experience any kind of equanimity? Can we practice metta or not? Is there a sense of well-being or not? Is the mind supreme or not supreme? Kind of exalted or unexalted? This relates, I think, to samadhi. As we develop our meditation practice, we can focus, can't we, more and more clearly. The mind becomes sharper. It can become like a sword, cutting through distraction and really settling. And we can choose what we want to pay attention to. Is this the state of mind? Or is it not so concentrated, not so refined? We have then the question, immersed in samadhi or not immersed in samadhi? Is the mind focusing, becoming one-pointed or not? So these states are very, in a way, refined, and it's an invitation for us to not rest there, If we're fortunate enough not to be dealing with greed or hatred or delusion, restlessness or sleepiness, which present themselves first of all, and so they're the first states that the Buddha is actually pointing out. If the mind is free from all of those challenges, we don't want to rest there. We don't want to just bliss out, enjoy the peace and drift off. No, we want to investigate what's actually happening when my meditation is enabling some stillness, some focus, some peace. Okay, is this mind unsurpassed or is it surpassed? Have I ever experienced anything more peaceful than this? Do I sense that there may be greater peace than this? Do I sense that there's any wobble here at all or not? And so we don't want to rest on our laurels. In terms of our meditation practice, we want to continue to develop this quality of investigation, Dhammavichaya, and not fall for greed or desire for the pleasant that can arise so easily when our meditation's peaceful. We can look out for greed at that level, the subtle degrees of greed and desire, and we can also keep kind of prodding and investigating the state of mind. Know that it's not static. Know that there's no experience of peace, experience of jhana that is going to last for any length of time. So can we be willing to move through and keep developing insight into Cittanupassana? And finally, the last of these groups or pairs of observations we can investigate into, is the mind liberated or not? Is the mind free or not? And I notice in Bhikkhu Bodhi's beautiful translation of this sutta, he has a footnote and he explains this is not talking about the final liberation of arahant necessarily, but it's more like, is there freedom in this moment? Is there really an experience at any time of a mind that's not at all caught up in anything whatsoever? Can I experience that? Or is that not the case? And so this question is a really wonderful way of investigating the state of mind. Because if we ask that question, is the mind free or not? Then immediately, I've noticed, if the mind is not free, whatever's not free here will kind of come into more stark relief, you know. It's like practicing metta. When we practice metta, anything that's not, that doesn't have that quality of metta will tend to become very clear for us. It's visible for us. Any aversion, any trace of anything other than metta will be revealed. So this question can seem like, oh my goodness, such a kind of end of the path question. Am I free or not? But no, we can use this, use these words, use these, what the Buddha's pointing to in each of these pairs of mind states here in the Satipatthana Sutta as ways of contemplating. So we can bring in the question and then we have a chance to bring the attention to bear and to see, is there lust in the mind or not? Is there hatred or not? However subtle, however a flicker of resistance might be there, or is it not? Is the mind free or not? And when we ask the question, we're there, you know, and we can see, we know the answer. We can know the answer. And so we can deepen our investigation of citta, of heart, of mind, of the state of mind. And this includes, my sense is that Cittanupassana includes these kind of states of mind that we will label as depression or anxiety or anger or fear. This is the kind of place, in a way, where we can experience the sense of emotions coming and going. And it's really valuable to feel out what these perceptions actually are for us, you know. For instance, if I feel like I'm an anxious person, I know anxiety, I have it, it's there. I'm fearful and I'm anxious. We can respect that understanding that we have and the need to help ourselves in whatever ways we can with that challenge, that difficulty. But when it comes to practice, what we can actually valuably do is come to the place of Cittanupassana, sit with it and see if we can deconstruct that label, that perception, that sense of me and my issue. How do we do that? We come into this space of opening to what's happening right now and asking these questions from the Buddha, you know, regarding the state of mind. How is it? What is it actually like? Is there desire here? Is there aversion here? How does it feel? And often with anxiety, fear, we can feel in the body, can't we? There's so much going on. It's almost like the inclination is not to want to feel because it's too difficult. It makes it feel worse. But if we can allow ourselves to peacefully sit, you know, breathe and come to this place of embodiment and gently open to what's actually happening. We can see how, even these very solid seeming states of mind, or kind of almost like life states, like this is my personality, this is what I'm like, I'm depressed, I've always been depressed. We can be willing, can't we, to kind of have a little question mark and be willing to let go of these ways in which we solidify and reify this one, because it is suffering, it isn't permanent, and it's not self. And we can resist that teaching, and we can feel what that's like. We can notice, perhaps when we reflect on the Buddha's teachings on not self, how we might not want to let go sometimes. Sometimes we have a mind state that's playing out for us that's a sort of cover, don't we? It's like a cover for something else. There's something else underneath that we don't want to go to. We don't want to look at that. We don't want to lift off the lid because we can be afraid of what's inside the pot, And thankfully, these teachings give us a lot of guidance, a lot of support, and we can slowly face these fears and just be willing to, again and again, come back to this momentary experience of body breathing and mind flowing, and just see how we can slowly but surely let the investigation go a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper, and see how things can reveal themselves. There's nothing that can really harm us, actually, is there? When we're practicing the Buddha's teachings, when we practice meditation, there's incredible protection. This mind actually protects itself. We never get more than we can handle because the mind won't allow it. It's a natural unfolding. But we can be courageous in that. We can be willing to, just question the sense of me and mine in relation to any kind of trait, mood, personality, anything that seems like this is who I am. Just to be willing to not believe that, and to keep coming back to, how does it feel? What's it like now? And start to let things break up, I'm not saying that meditation is a cure for any kind of mind states or mood issues or even mental diseases, but it can certainly help. And who knows, it can even really give us a lot of ability to be very resourced around these things, and recognize that, there's nothing about this life and this experience of this personhood that I want to make more of. Actually, the way out of suffering is this willingness to let things fall away, step back from all the experiences and be more objective. And this attitude, this incredible approach here in the teaching on Cittanupassana is really giving us the ability to free ourselves, I think, completely. The more we're willing to let go, then the more freedom we can experience. So let's keep asking the question, is this mind free or not? Is there freedom here? And see what reveals itself. And let's keep investigating and looking out for, the spiritual enemies of desire and aversion, of confusion or doubt, of restlessness, of dullness. Let's just, shine the light on them. All we actually have to do, isn't it, is just to notice if these states are present or not. If they're not present, we can be glad and move on to the next investigation. But if they're present, then we can look at them. Just open to the restlessness, open to the sleepiness. Feel out, what's actually happening here in the body. Or with greed or aversion, what's playing out in the mind? And how does it feel here in the body? And this way of paying attention, moving towards, getting really close to any kind of hindrance at all, what happens? They're very shy, aren't they? And they just disappear. They disappear. They move through more quickly. And then we can investigate the next thing. So let's be willing to bring in these teachings, and I'd like to invite everyone to read through the Cittanupassana section of Satipatthana Sutta from time to time and consider. So short, so pithy. Consider these teachings, remembering the refrain where the Buddha is saying, so he's given us these 16 ways of questioning what is the state of mind. And then he gives this refrain that repeats for every meditation instruction relating to body, feelings, mind, and thinking. He says, notice. You can notice the arising and the passing. You can notice the internal and the external manifestations. Or you can simply observe with bare attention. This is mind. And just a few words about the internal and external, because this opens up for us the whole world of experience opens up, and we can recognize here when the Buddha talks about internal and external experience, he's really inviting us to let everything be the Dharma teaching us. Be mindful of everything. When you see someone else in a particular state of mind, can you know that? When you look at others, is there lust present? Is there hatred present? Is there confusion? Is there restlessness? Can we ask the question? Can we be tuned in to observing reality in this way? That means not to be reacting. That means not to be making anything more of what is. That means not to see that person as this way or that way. It means we stop creating people. It means we recognize that we don't know anybody, that people are constantly changing. Everyone we think we know, we've got them down, we've known them our whole lives. No, we don't know them at all, do we? There's just this constant flow of experience, just like it is here, so it is there. And can we see people now, in this moment, for who they really are right now, which is this flow of Dhamma for us. So there's this invitation to extend, all the insight we have around this mind and body and how it's constantly changing and how it's impersonal due to cause and effect. As we develop this in our practice and through contemplating these teachings of the Buddha on reality, reality is this, it is changing, it is impersonal, it is dukkha, it is unsatisfactory. Can we turn that lens from this one and direct it outwards and see what seems so solid, we have perceptions around that are very fixed sometimes, the other, what they're like, who they are. Can we let that go? And can we simply look in this moment with fresh eyes, with innocence, with an open gaze, with an open heart, and investigate what's really happening there? What can I feel in relation to the other? what is the state of mind here? What is the state of mind there? And it's not that we become mind readers, but we certainly can become very perceptive, very intuitive around others. We can be very empathic when we practice in the moment, and we don't create people. We're not operating from memories of who they are and all the things that have happened between us over all these years, or even that they might remind me of someone else, or even that this is the way I relate to everybody because this is the way I related to my parents. All of these ways, habitual ways of relating, can we see them for what they are? Can we step away from that, and can we be present for the other? And then empathy is a given. Compassion is often a given, because as much as we can be kind to the moment here and cultivate loving kindness for this experience, and so much, that much we can offer to whatever is seen out there as external. So this teaching has a tremendous significance for us. Let's consider also the refrain here in the field of Cittanupassana. What does it mean, internal and external? What is it to see mind with mind externally? See mind in mind externally. So I'd like to invite you to consider all of these ways of investigating mind, chitta, heart, mind states, and wish you well with this practice, always with kindness. I think actually kindness is the result of this practice. It's really quite natural, isn't it? Because when we see these minds and how they, deal with all these various obscurations, it can really bring up a great sense of compassion for us. So let's remember compassion if we need to remember it, and let it imbue our practice, loving kindness and compassion for this one and for all, for the external and the internal. Sadhu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.